Welcome everyone to episode 149 of The Glow, coming at you live on Facebook. You'll also be able to tune in on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, my website, and other places online. So blessed to have Mr. Tiger Singleton, my good friend, who I haven't talked to in a long time, except for a few minutes just beforehand today. So really excited to catch up and connect with him. He's coming to us from Lisbon, Portugal. And last time that I saw him, we were in Oregon. And he's like, I've never been outside of the United States. And he's been all over the world since then, Asia and Bali and Thailand and Europe. And all kind of been kind of following his travels like a lot of you. So it's going to be exciting to catch up with him. Welcome everybody. When you're entering, you can please share where you're from. Hit the heart button, the wow button. I'm excited to be with y'all. It's going to be lots of fun today. It already is lots of fun, isn't it? It already is lots of fun. We got some great stuff to dive into. I'm just going to dive right in. Let's see if I can find Tiger. Get him in here. Yes. There he is.
Ta-da!
Hello.
What's
Welcome.
happening? Thank you.
Yes. You're in a cafe in Lisbon. That's how you say it, right? Lisbon?
Lisbon.
Lisbon.
Or for the locals, it's Lisboa.
Lisbon.
Lisboa.
Lisboa.
It's spelled completely different. It's really weird how the locals spell it differently, but everyone else in the world spells it their own way.
Uh-huh.
It's like, we don't believe you, Lisbon. We're going to call it what we want to call it.
Jane Flintoff is here. Jane Flintoff, I said, like, what guest should I have on? She's like, Tiger Singleton. So welcome,
she's a sweetheart.
Yeah. Yeah. So how's life in Portugal?
It's just like everywhere else, man. This is one thing that I found while traveling around the world. It's like, hey, the moment's still the moment. Everything's still the same, no matter what. So that's the good news, is that the truth is the truth, no matter where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I am living here. I don't find myself here too often, but I'm in Lisbon. I don't know, maybe 7-8 days out of the month.
Mm-hmm.
But I like living in the city. I was doing the island stuff for a while, and I was like, okay, I gotta get in the city and find some commotion. And so I really like the flow of waking up and just going in and finding a cafe to call my office and hanging out and meeting the locals. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. I didn't tell you where I am yet.
You're not in North Carolina?
Well, no. But let's start with North Dakota. My first time here.
What the hell are you doing in North Dakota? I mean, I'm sure the truth is the truth out there, but
from North Dakota, so I'm here visiting North Dakota, and it's very exciting. It's flat, and there's big skies and lots of space. I haven't really seen much at all yet. I'll see more today, but I'm in a very different. It's like kind of what I relate with what you're saying. It's like you travel, and it's like these places are so different. It's like a different texture, a different flavor.
Yeah.
But there's just something that's also, this ever-present I am is still there.
Yeah.
And I think when you discover that, it's like, it just makes a huge difference. You can be so much more grounded, potentially, wherever you are.
Well, yeah, especially when you're not hoping that it's going to be different. It's kind of like relationships. You're always just going to see yourself anyway. And so that can't really be the motivation so much to find something new outside of yourself. You're always just going to see different aspects of yourself. So that's kind of comforting. Or terrifying.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. You can tell us where you're from, and you can ask questions anytime and make comments. Karen Carenza says, I love you. I don't know if that's for you or for me, but I'm going to say that's for you.
It's totally to me. I'm going to take that one. Put it in my heart collection box.
So yeah, I was asking you like what's alive for you, and some stuff that really I found inspiring. The wisdom of insecurity is one.
Totally.
Sweet surrender,
Hmm.
and the truth. Was it the truth hurts or the truth could hurt?
The truth that hurts.
The truth that hurts.
Yeah.
Let's start with that one. That one's intriguing.
The
What
truth
is
that
the truth
hurts.
that hurts?
The truth that hurts is the truth, man. And is we just don't like it. You know, it's the classic phrase of the truth will piss you off before it liberates you. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a great wisdom in being open to being hurt by the truth, rather than looking for some beautiful idea of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
To not try and sidestep the inevitable pain of seeing one's absence of self-importance. And it
Mm.
ties into the wisdom of insecurity, uh, which is recognizing that everything that we're afraid of, in one way, we're only afraid of the truth. And the way that I see this pointing is we're afraid of the truth that shows us we're not really there. That what we're trying to attain, whatever image we're trying to grasp or idea about ourselves, we are ultimately going to find an epic failure. And so I find that oftentimes we're trying to fix the insecurity or compensate or to not have it, when in reality, the insecurity is always just pointing to the truth. And so, if we can acknowledge the truth that's being seen, then we can relax into the insecurity, which is almost like a surrendering of every burden. It's like, oh, you know what? It's true. Who I think I am is not enough. It's true. I'm not going to get this in the future. This isn't a real thing. And so, it invites us to come to terms with the non reality of our self importance.
Yeah, the self-importance thing is so fascinating. It's so fascinating. The need to stand
Yeah.
out, the need to be special, the need to be important. And then there's like this paradox because like with what you do, it would look on a certain level like you think you're important or you think you're doing something important
Right.
because you're speaking to other people, you're presenting
Yeah.
things. So talk about that paradox, the sense of like it looks on one level like, oh, this person thinks they're important, but in this other level,
Yeah.
it's like they realize something much deeper.
Yeah, in one way, that's the nightmare for me. Is that someone would think that I know what I'm talking about, and paint some sort of image that I have my shit together or something, or that the person of me feels secure, because it just couldn't be anything other than the opposite of that. And so I find that what I'm sharing. Um, is so far removed from anything about me, um, that when I share, I completely disappear in the way
Yep.
that when a painter paints, they disappear. And this is the draw to paint. It's like life is painting. And so I'm going to get out of the way and let life do what it wants to do. And this is what I find for myself is when I sit down in a chair and get quiet, I'm gone, man. And then life just sings its song. And then I go home and pick up my self importance and have a terrible time just like everyone else. So it's all good.
Yeah. I totally relate to that. One of the things that I've been, a friend of mine, John Stringer, who's been on here before, talking about channeling. So I kind of had like a sort of a negative view of channeling, and like not negative, but potentially
Yeah.
negative in certain cases. But it's kind of like what you're talking about. I relate to. It's almost like a channeling, but instead of channeling some alien entity or something, you're just
Yeah.
really channeling yourself, right? It's when
Yeah.
you
It's
become just
it's
really clear, open, and available.
yeah. For me, it's like when I sit down, the internal question is what is the most sincere thing I could say right now. And so I don't feel like what I am is removed from what's being said. Who I am is totally removed, but what I am, it's really it's just its most sincere expression. And so the pretense gets to fall away, the trying gets to fall away, and the the wanting kind of falls away. And I just find such a great relaxation that says, okay, let's just sit here and investigate our deepest sincerity. But, you know, like you, when people say that I'm channeling, that doesn't sit for me.
Right.
I understand why it might sit, but it doesn't for me, because it doesn't feel like it's an external something coming through. If anything, it feels like things drop away and then something's said. Um, but again, it's like it's all words, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's like it's such a paradox of when you release the effort, when you release the trying to make it something,
Right.
that's when the beauty, the magic, the
Yeah.
that's when the beauty and the magic comes through.
Yeah, and I see that in a playful way. That's my whole like person life is trying, and it's really hilarious because I see that I'm not getting anywhere. I see that in one way it's like a rat on a wheel that thinks it's going to accomplish something. And so my invitation has been, okay, so if I'm going to just be spinning my wheels, I might as well do it joyfully. And so I tend to just work on things that I enjoy, not really thinking that I'm going to make something happen. It's just a matter of just letting life be life, and letting life do the details. But until then, I'm just going to do what I can do. Because it's funny, I was just this before I got in here, I was having a session with someone from Hawaii, and my old stomping grounds, my old home. I mean, lava's taken over, man. And this
Yeah.
friend had gone through this phase of, okay, I'm going to get responsible, and I'm going to, you know, come back to that world. And, you know, they built a house and they put all this effort in, and really kind of saw an unkindness in them during the process. Like, it's not really what they felt led to do, but because of the social pressure, they felt obligated to be an adult, so to speak. And then the lava just comes and takes it out. You know, it's like everything's gone. And so in one way, there's just this enormous laughter that shows us that whatever we think we're doing, that's not happening. So relax, you know, and see what life wants to do through you naturally, rather than what you think you need to be doing.
And that's what I've always found like really powerful and beautiful about our relating in our conversations like this is like we don't have a script, we don't have a set of like, oh, we're trying to get to these different
Yeah.
points, you know. It's just being present together, and then just what flows through is what's, as you say, sincere, right? In the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
for me, that's kind of the only thing that works, because, yeah, I'm not the guy that can script it and then
Mhm.
be like determined and disciplined, so to speak, to make something happen. That's
Mhm.
just clearly not my path.
So it's like a sense of like being in the flow, like fully being in the flow.
Yeah, and that being in the flow is almost recognizing that the flow is already happening, and
Yeah.
the only thing that's arguing with the flow is, again, an insecurity that feels inadequate in its self-importance. And
Mhm.
so it's it's trying to control the flow so that it can have better ideas about itself, which, again, you know, from the human space, that's totally understandable, and it's logical. Go ahead. And but at the same time, it's going to fail, and
Mhm.
there's an important opportunity to go through that failure. I mean, there's a great success in that failure because it's pointing you home. And that's why, for me, all of this insight that I share comes from failure. It comes from seeing that I cannot do it. I can't live up to the social idea of what it's supposed to be like to be, you know, a human being. All I can do is just be what I am.
Mhm. And what you're doing is like you're one of the only people that I know that's doing like very similar to what I'm doing. So you've written a couple. You've written how many? Two books?
Yes, and then about 15 unfinished books.
Yeah.
Case in
So
point.
two books. Two books. I also have two books, and you like to write in a poetic style. That's how it comes through often for you. Like me, you do personal sessions with people, you do retreats, you do satsangs. Um, I guess like my question is, what's that like? What's it like, being out there and creating these spaces for people?
Um, I just find it to be incredibly normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's no other option. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just what's happening. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when the greatest joy comes. And I think this is a confusion for people too. We're thinking like the greatest joy comes when you get to do something other than what you're doing. But I find that when the present moment joy is found, then things just do what they're going to do, and they tend to move in a direction that resonates more sincerely with your heart. But the joy isn't through what's happening, because again, I've seen in my experience that the mind always thinks something's happening, and then you find out it's not. Life is doing something else. It's like you start to think you know something, and then life shows you that you don't know.
Yep.
Um, and so in that, there's the relaxation into a normalcy that is, wow, this is just all happening, and let's see what life wants to do.
Mm. Here's a fun question from Robin. Are you
Yeah.
sure you're not just rationalizing a sense of limitation?
I'm not sure about anything. But I mean, I can understand how it can be seen like that. And so if it's seen like that, then the one who's seeing has something to look to. Because again, anything could be said and it can be interpreted in any way possible. And
Mm-hmm.
so it really comes down to what's being seen by the one who's seeing. And for me, it's not seen as a rationalization. It's seen as a recognition of surrender,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a game that we can try and play into, which is trying to get over the limitation, which is in a way trying to conquer insecurity. Um, and I would say best of luck, you know, to do that. But in my investigation, I see that the person who thinks they're doing something is the limitation itself. And so no matter what you do, you're going to find limitation. And even as you get over limitation, you're going to find a new limitation, always pointing one back to the disappearance of a self. But again, this makes for a fun human game, of someone who's doing a personal growth thing or trying to accomplish something. That's just the game they get to play. And yeah, it's completely equal and completely valid. I just find for myself a disinterest in that game.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a big paradox here. It's like there's a sense of like when you when you kind of let go of the trying, let go of the efforting, let go of the like I can do it, I can, and then there's something that you're totally open, you're totally available for the moment, right? And then your mind quiets, so your mind is just sort of empty and available. And then it's actually this paradox of like, for me, it's like a sense of there's actually no limit. Like there's no
Yeah,
limitation in that moment. Like I don't know what's going to come through me, what's going to happen. So there's no sense of like, oh, I can't do it or I can't make it. There's nothing even to make happen, right? You're just like in the
right.
space of like unlimited, unlimited possibility. And I find like for me, that's when the amazing, like you're talking about the painter or the poet,
Yeah,
like that's when the best poetry comes through, right? It's not like,
yeah,
oh, I have this, I thought I had this limit, but now I have this limit. It's like, no,
yeah.
I don't have any limit. I'm just here and
Well, see,
available, and poetry is coming
yeah.
through.
Well, see, and you see exactly what happens here is as you experience the vastness of that limitless possibility, the person jumps in there, and the
Mm,
person wants to do something in that vast space on behalf of the person, and
mm,
and that's where we encounter the frustration because that will be seen as impossible,
mm,
because everything, I mean, it comes and goes, and so whatever you think is going to happen for the person, you're going to be disappointed because life's movement isn't about the person. The seasons don't change for the person. It all happens for the truth. It all happens for the whole. And so I find that everything that flows through me literally has nothing to do with me or what I want or what I think, what I believe. It's like I'm the most irrelevant part of the equation. Like really like a disappearance, and then there's an awareness that gets to watch what life is doing. And that's when I see life flowing through what appears to be me, but what I see clearly is that it's not.
Max says potential resides in the unknown. Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
resonate with that. Yeah. Like as long when we think we know something, even the sense of like, oh, I'm whatever. I'm really good at this. I'm this good at this particular skill, right? There's still a
Yeah.
limit in that. When you have
Yeah.
no idea, there's unlimited potential for
Yeah.
what can come to you.
And you see the truth that terrifies us is the unknown. And that's
Yes.
why the mind's always trying to put a limit on the unknown so that it can know itself. It's like the person. In order for the person to exist, there has to be a limit. And so, in order for the person to be a person, they have to have a problem. They have to have some sense of separation, and which gives an aliveness to the sense of being a separate self. But again, the moment it's believed in, the moment it's thought to be true, we set ourselves up for suffering. And in one way, there's no way around it. It's just going to happen. My only solace in that is just to see that it's not true. And in that, I don't have to take disappointment so seriously. It's just like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. I thought I knew something. And so we can let it go rather than fighting the whole process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like someone was saying this phrase I really liked about the mind. It's like you're just like observing like the beautiful lie, you know? So you
Yeah.
don't have to like get rid of it or make it go away or try to suppress
Right.
it, repress it, but just notice it is. Notice what it is as it is, the nature of what it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's like I notice in my person how terrified my person is, so to speak. But it makes perfect sense because the only thing it's terrified of is its absence. And so if there's a sense of self there, um, it's like there will automatically be some sense of fear because it's not there. And so if it's seen to be there, at the same time, it's like it's seeing its own absence, and so there'll be fear. And so rather than trying to get over, around, or under that fear points me to the truth. It's just like a beautiful reminder. It's like when a thought comes in my mind that says, Tiger, you're not enough. I can say, you know what? Thank you. Thank you, because that's absolutely true. Who I think I am is not enough. And so I can go to what is enough, which is the truth. And it can be the end of the argument.
mm-hmm.
And then I don't have to
how
battle with the mind and try and convince the mind that I am enough.
and how would you articulate what the truth is?
Um, well, no way that's going to be understood.
Right?
But it, it's almost asking like what's real.
Yeah.
To me, the truth is what's real. And
Yeah.
if you're going to find out anything that's real about anything, you have to go to where it's real. And
Mm-hmm.
so if it's not real right now, then it's not real. And so to find the real, you have to go to the real, which is right now. And so for me, everything that is now is the truth, but not my commentary about now, not my conditioned ideas or yesterday's thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
It's beyond all of the movements in the mind, and what I find that there's a presence to this now that's always present. That is the truth, but the moment you say anything about it, it's not that. It's kind of like if we were to ask, well, what is life? The moment you say anything, that's not what it is. It's like the most honest response to that question is silence, because life is happening now. This is it. You're breathing it, and the moment anything is said, that's not it. It's not your idea about it. It's just what it is, and it'll always be that. And again, when you rest in that, which is to see beyond all the noise, you can't help but notice a beautiful harmony that what appears to be 10,000 different happenings in the forest, everything becomes one breath. It's like, oh wow, there's not 10,000 things here. There's just one thing, and in the one thing that everything is, everything's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing in order for the one thing to be the one thing. And so there's an amazing release of resistance towards the 10,000 things, and there's a freedom that's extended to everything, and a soft bow that only says thank you. And so for me, that's the truth, is thank you.
That's beautiful. Elizabeth says, so what's the difference between the ego and your mind? Are they the same thing?
Well, the ego exists in the mind. The ego is a product of the mind, and so I wouldn't necessarily call them the same thing. But I just see the mind as just another tool that helps one function, or that's a part of the play of functioning. But the ego creates, the mind creates an idea of a someone that isn't really there. And it's a someone that nobody else will see other than you, which is really funny to me, because we think other people see us.
And we try to make people see us. We pick a lot of energy trying to make people see us the way we see ourselves.
And it's just impossible, like in the most real way, because it's impossible for you to have an idea of yourself and for anybody else to see that idea. At best, they're going to see their idea, which is a reflection of their own self-idea, conditioned through their experience, which doesn't even begin to touch your experience. And so this is what's so funny about the ego is we think it's real, we try and protect it, and we try and defend it as if it's seen by anybody's mind other than our own. And for me, this is the disappearance, is when this idea of self is seen through, that you see that nobody else will ever see it. It crumbles, and you really have to question, well, what the fuck am I doing? Because you start to see that the whole motivation for being a human being is to support this egoic structure. But it's supporting it as if it's important because other people are seeing it. And as that motivation gets destroyed, you find a profound emptiness, which again is terrifying. And one must reorient their whole movement, because the old way of moving just doesn't make any sense. It's completely insane.
Well, the interesting thing is that the emptiness is so terrifying to the ego, right? To the story of the separate self. But emptiness to the truth is actually the safest place you could ever be. Like nothing bad or good can ever happen there, you know?
Nice way to keep it balanced.
The closest thing you can really say is you're free. Like people say, oh, there's joy, there's bliss. Not really, because that means there's something opposite of that, right? But the only thing I could say in words is you're free, or peace. These kind of words, I think are more accurate.
Well, it's kind of like one of the exercises that we kind of do in Set's Song is to get profoundly honest about our worry. Like what is it that we're so worried about yesterday? And when you look at this, it's like the only thing you're actually worried about is that you wouldn't make it to this moment right now. It's like somehow you wouldn't show up in this moment and be whole and complete. And we can totally see that that's true. And you can look back and see that there actually wasn't anything to worry about. You're free to worry, but it didn't necessarily contribute to your wholeness because you're already whole. And ultimately, what the space we're trying to get to, that's moving from anxiety or moving from worry, is you're ultimately trying to relax. And again, you're not necessarily trying to be happy or blissed out or ecstatic. You're just wanting to rest and know that all is incredibly well. And that's not necessarily an emotional state of being. That's more of a falling away of all worry. And in that space, everything is seen to be in its perfect place. And there's a great relaxation into that emptiness. And for me, that's home. It's like whatever emotional experience wants to come and visit is perfectly allowed, because it doesn't disturb the silence. It doesn't disturb the underlying current of emptiness.
Mm, yeah. You reminded me of this story that I was I was reading the story about, so I can get it right. There's an American investment banker, and he meets this Mexican pitcher. You know the story?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
fisherman.
So you might be able to talk better than me, but basically they're having this conversation, and he can't understand why this guy's not investing in his future, and why he's not trying. He can't understand why the Mexican guy, and trying to teach him about investing and banking and all this stuff. And the fisherman's like, well, let me ask you a question. If you had all these millions of dollars that you're wanting to get, like, what would you do with it? And he's like, well, I'd get a place on the beach in Mexico and fish.
Yeah, yeah. That's the comedy. It's like everyone's looking for exactly where they are right now.
Yep.
So chill the fuck out and
Yep.
relax and see that everything you think you want in the future, you don't really want that thing. You want what you think that thing will give you, which
Yep.
is the freedom to relax.
Freedom.
And so
Yeah.
this is why I say you have everything that you desire. Not that you can manifest this or that, but the only thing you're looking for, you already have. And
Mm-hmm.
so release what you think you want and come back to what you already have. Because
Mm-hmm.
the moment you go chase something, you're now blaming that something as the keys to your relaxation. And the disaster in this is, it's kind of like the one who's chasing a relationship that says, oh man, if only someone would love me. And then they find someone who appears to love them. Now they're terrified of losing that person. And so they never get to relax anyway, because the forms that we see, they're constantly coming and going. They're constantly changing. So to rely on anything as the source of what you want will immediately set you up for anxiety, fear, stress, and all of these things, because something inside of you inherently knows that you cannot hold on to it. And so there's a scrambling that takes place that tries to move to control and judge and all of these things. And so we get to run into this failure, which is really quite beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting. You think about, like, when people want to acquire a lot of material wealth, or they want to acquire a lot of money. What is the underlying motivation for that? And it's the freedom to relax.
Yeah,
There's an idea that, if I get this amount of money, I'll have the freedom to relax, right?
yeah.
But then the question is, I don't take anything away from that at all. I don't have any negative feelings about that at all. But there is a question of, like, is there freedom to relax in this moment now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah, it's always there, but it's at the sacrifice of what you think will give you permission in the future. And again, if we're stressed out about letting it go, then we're still not seeing what's going on. We still think there's something for us in the future. And this is why it's totally okay to go and chase those things. And life just has no judgment, because you have to find out through direct experience. I can't just tell you that there's nothing in the future. You have to look at your direct experience and see that for yourself. And so when I say these things and someone says, okay, but I still want to go and do this, or I think this will make me happy, I tell you, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really, like, give it everything you got. It's like, exhaust yourself as quickly as
Yeah.
possible so that you can learn the lesson. Because you
Yeah.
can't spiritualize your way out of it by just trying to hold on to a concept of it. And that's part of the play of this life is you get to really dive in and you get to experience the truth for yourself rather than just listening to somebody else.
Yeah. There's another level that I find, which is that I want to do this thing. I actually don't think this thing will make me happy in the future, but I want to do it because I enjoy doing it in the present. And I think that's when you're
Yeah.
in that space, that's a different place to be in. Like, people use words like alignment, or,
Yeah.
being in the flow, but being in the energy of the creative energy itself, as opposed to, oh, when I get to this result, that everything's going to be okay, right? It's a
Yeah.
different kind of level of presence, awareness.
Yeah. It's the difference between I want that to I would enjoy that.
Mm.
And when you see that you don't really want or need it, and you see that you're open to enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
not only does it not matter anymore, but it's much easier for life to flow in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we can bullshit ourselves and say, "Oh, I don't want that. I would enjoy that," because it sounds like the spiritual thing to say. But you'll find out, according to your stress around it, according to how bothered you are when it looks like it's not going your way.
Mm-hmm.
You get to find out.
Yeah, an example for me is I did this cross country trip. That's actually when I saw you for the first time. I
Oh
did
yeah.
this cross country trip a few years ago, and there was this idea of like I'm gonna get to I was on the East Coast. I'm gonna get to the Pacific Ocean. I'm gonna get to the California Pacific Ocean, right? So I could have just been like in the sense of like, okay, when I get to this goal at the end, I'll be happy, right? But actually, it was every step of the journey was so amazing, right? All the scenery, all the places, all the stuff, like that was the real fulfillment. And the Pacific Ocean was nice too, but that was just the culmination of all these spots. But if I just would have like sped through and like I get to my goal, it's like you're missing out on life. Life is
Yeah.
like here. It's it's a saying that people have heard, but it can't be said enough. It's really about the journey, not about the destination. Literally in this case.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Totally.
go ahead.
Well, there's something to be said about, I think it was Alan Watts that says the purpose of a musical composition is not the end of the composition. It's the journey through the composition, and
Mm,
this is music. We're not waiting for the end of the song. We're deeply surrendering into the melody that's happening in the present moment.
yep.
Because as soon as you get to the end of the song, you're done, and you don't get anything out of the end of the song. There will now be another song, and
Mm,
so it's really about checking in with yourself. What resonates? What's the melody that resonates? Not what song do your parents want you to play,
mm,
but what resonates in the heart of your own being, and then go
mm.
sing that song. And where it's going to go, you don't know. It's impossible to know. And anything you think about where it's going is automatically wrong, because life will never conform to your idea of anything. It'll
Mm-hmm.
always be something different.
That's a great example of the song. I love that. So
Yeah.
it's like you don't listen to a song to get to the end of it. Oh, let me
Yeah.
get to the end of the song. That's the goal, is to get it over with. Like you listen to a song to listen to every note, every
Yeah.
every every sound in the song. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
You become immersed in the melody. You become one with the melody. It just doesn't have anything to do with the end.
Mm. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Thank you all for being here. People from all over the world. I see people from Australia and United Kingdom and Peru and America and Europe. Hi, everybody. Jenny in Finland. If anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to share in this moment right now.
And as they're contemplating their questions, if anyone's in Europe area, I invite you to check out my schedule, because I'm bouncing all around London, Switzerland, Sweden, Denmark, Portugal, and other places in Western Europe. So if you want to come rest in this space, uh, totally allowed to come do that. It'd be nice to see you.
Yeah, tell us what you got going on, what's happening. I got your website is tigmonk.com, right?
I think it is. I haven't seen it in about a year, but I think it's up there. But the event tab on tigmonk.com goes to the Inlight Connect page,
Okay.
which is kind of a project that I'm doing with some friends, which is really, some friends that want to support the sharing and support this sort of space to discover this truth. And so they're setting up events and doing a bunch of groundwork, which is really amazing, because if it was just up to me, then none of this shit would get done. And so it's really awesome to see these people making the events and doing all the back end stuff. And I like the idea of kind of making it about an organization, because more and more I realize I'm not doing anything. So I don't want to perpetuate the idea that I'm the guy that knows something.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think that's an interesting phenomenon. That's a shift that a lot of people are feeling. I'm feeling it. It sounds like you're feeling it. Is kind of this whole kind of guru thing of like
Yeah,
this is the perfect man. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
he never has a fault. He never, and we all must try to be like him. And you're down
yeah,
here, and he's up there, and it just creates this duality, this separation, which the truth is non-dual, right? Realization. So it's
yeah,
there is no separation, and so it feels like I think my personal feeling is like people do have awakenings to what's real, what's true, and they feel inspired to share it, and that's beautiful. But I think there's a humanization that's happening. The humanization of the one who's sharing is a human
yeah.
being, you, and there's something beautiful about that. That's really healing, I think, for
Yeah,
people.
you know, and I think it's no different from, like, say someone's on stage playing a piano and you're in the audience and you get wrapped up into this beautiful melody and you start feeling this profound peace within yourself. It would be really insane to go up to the pianist and say, "You're the master of peace," because I felt this inside of myself. When really the pianist was just letting their heart sing. They were just doing what they love to do. It doesn't say anything about them as a person. It doesn't say anything about their life. It just is a space for beauty to be seen. And this is what I see that happens when I share is I'm literally just singing a song, not making any sort of claims about myself as a person, other than it doesn't fucking matter. And that if you hang out with me for a day, I'll destroy every idea you have about being a spiritual person, because it's not about that for me. And so the opportunity in the relationship is for you to see what you see inside of yourself. It doesn't have anything to do with the teacher. It's and again we give away our authority. We almost want there to be a teacher, so that we don't have to take a certain degree of responsibility. So we don't have to see the raw and real about ourselves. We would much rather project an image of somebody higher so that we can reaffirm our sense of inadequacy. It's like it helps us come to terms with our own self-judgment that says, see, look, I judge myself in comparison to this person. And so that's okay. But in every instance of putting someone up on a pedestal, they're always going to fall off every time, sooner or later. Not that they will, but the ones who perceive them, because they perceive them on a pedestal, which means they have an idea, and ideas get broken every time. And so whatever you think about someone, you will always find that thought to not be true
That
every
right
time.
there is so. That little part right there is so powerful and so succinct and so true. Whatever
Yeah.
you think about someone, you will always find to not be true. I
Yeah.
completely agree with that 100%.
And it's a it's
Every
a it's a great reflection, though, because it's what we do with ourselves. Is we think something about ourselves, and then we find out that it's not true.
Yes, yeah, and we're trying. Our security comes through holding on to ideas about ourselves, right? That's what makes us feel safe. I'm this kind of person. I'm a nice person,
Yep.
so I feel like safe because you create an idea that I'm a nice person. Then someone tells me you're not a nice person. Then I get all freaked out and I'm defensive, and then we're fighting and all this stuff, right?
Yep.
But if someone tells me you're not a nice person, oh, that's an interesting idea. I haven't tried that idea on. It's
Yeah.
like it's just ideas. It's just thoughts.
Yeah.
It's all just like trying on different clothing.
Yeah. And at the same time, it can easily be, okay, thank you, I'm sorry, because in especially when you see that it's not, none of it's true, then in a way all of it becomes true, and it's all okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so there can really be like this space of no defensiveness, because
Yep.
it's like to defend against anything anyone says about you means that you think something else about you, and so
Yep.
you're looking to define yourself in one way or another. And so,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the space that I've been playing in, is this total allowance, for anyone to say, think, whatever, and
Yeah.
not from a space of being spiritual or something, but just really seeing that it's okay. Because
Mm-hmm.
in that, I can allow them to be them and not need them to be any different.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
really, really beautiful.
Yeah. Tracy says, "Why are we watching you guys then?"
That's a great question. And
I think that's only for you to answer, Tracy. We can't
yeah,
answer that for you. That's something you have to really inquire deep inside yourself about.
it's like when people come to events, in a way, they come for one of two reasons. One is to fix themselves, and the other is to enjoy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like, in this situation, you're either trying to get something out of it to fix yourself, or you're just enjoying the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like listening to a song. You're just enjoying the song.
Yeah.
And again, there's no right or wrong way going about it, because however you go about it will serve as its own teacher.
Yeah.
And so you can approach it in the most natural way. That, oh, if you are trying to fix yourself, wonderful, fantastic. Or if
Yeah.
you're just enjoying, wonderful, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine people that are listening or watching for a whole variety of different reasons and motivations. Um, and my invitation would just be to create a field of presence together to explore truth. To explore truth, to explore what's real, to explore what's alive, to explore what's here. And there's something about that um, even the word truth. It's like, if you're something about that, I guess I'd say, that feels whole. When you're living the
Right.
truth, you feel whole. You feel, which is so paradoxical. So what are we trying? Usually, we're trying to put too much energy into being complete, to being whole in the future. Where if
Right.
you're just really present here with what is, you feel whole now.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's what's here. That's what's available, and that's what's present. And I really like the flip side of what you said about, it's like nothing that we think is true, and yet the flip side, you could also say everything is actually true in the relative sense.
Yep.
For a temporary moment. So that
Yep.
allows you to kind of embrace whatever arises without trying to get rid of it or shift it or
Yeah.
move it away. And there's a
Yeah.
freedom in that.
I think the truth in that is everything's allowed. Um, it's so oftentimes it's like when people say certain things, we almost assume that you're not allowed to say that. Or when people do certain things, we say that you're not free. But obviously you are. It's like when you say you're not allowed to say that, well, clearly you are allowed to say that, because that's what happened. Um,
Yeah.
and so there's like this recognition of, oh, this is so allowed that it's not about me. Because oftentimes when we say something's not allowed, we're defending ourselves. We're trying to
Mm.
protect an idea of ourselves. And when you see that you're not there, so to speak, then you extend freedom to everything and everyone. And in the extension of absolute freedom, you find that you are that same freedom that you're extending. And in the extension of absolute freedom, in the embodiment of absolute freedom, there's no more violence. Because in order for someone to have any ounce of violence, they have to think that they're not free.
Beautiful. What about this word? One of the things we've been exploring too, you mentioned it earlier, is the sense of being spiritual, or I'm a spiritual person. Like, what does spiritual mean to you? Like, what is that word? What is that phrase? What is that?
Um, ultimately, nothing like everything
Mm-hmm.
else. Um, as a pointer, um, again, I see spiritual as just pointing to what already is, in the way that everything that's present in the here and now is spirit, being and breathing. And so the spiritual isn't something that's enacted, or done. It's more of relaxed into. Um, but just like every other idea or concept, we can want to turn it into that, rather than seeing that it's already that. We
Yeah.
see this with changing the world. We say we want to create a peaceful world. Um, and so you create a concept or an idea of what that would look like. And your idea of a peaceful world is a disaster to somebody else. And so the real pointer in peace is to see that that's already happening. Ultimate peace is already taken place. And when you see that it's already here, you now see that peaceful world that you were trying to create. It's just like the spiritual. When you see that it's already spiritual, you see that everything is spiritual, and in that, love is extended to everything. When you see peace inside of yourself, you look out through eyes of peace, and now you're sharing that peace with everything. And so the external concept, or the idea that there's anything out there, is the absurdity. It's not out there. There's nothing out there. It's just you. And so whatever you see in yourself, that will be what you share with the world. Whatever you see in the world is only what you see in yourself.
And it's like this. I find the concept of spirituality, or the concept of I'm trying to be spiritual, or I'm going to be spiritual, or this person's spiritual, and I'm not. This whole thing becomes very limiting, and I'm really seeing that really clearly. Of like, it's something that's like, you gotta. It's almost like training wheels on a bicycle. You gotta like let it go at some point, and there's a big, wider world, big universe beyond this concept of being spiritual.
Yeah. It's like the I'm conscious and they're unconscious is no different than I'm smart and they're dumb. In order for you to be a conscious person, you have to find people who you think are unconscious. Because without that comparison, your idea of a conscious person doesn't exist. And in the quest of being conscious, then you will only see its opposite. It's like the more you want to be accepted, the more you reject yourself. The moment you want someone to approve of you is the moment you disapprove of you. It's immediate. And so whatever you look for in the world, you will deny to yourself right now.
Mm-hmm. Robin says, I care less about spiritual than I do authentic. Yes, I totally agree with that. 100%. And it's like a sense of, to use the term God for a second, the sense of like, I want to be fully available to God, or fully available to life, whatever word you want to use. So it's like, I can't have if I have any concept about how I'm supposed to behave, or what I'm supposed to say, or how I'm supposed to dress, or it's like all that stuff has to go, It's like this. I need to be a spiritual person. You're actually limiting yourself from being fully available to the very essence.
Yeah.
That's present.
All of that is looking for the person.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is the funny thing, because it's, as I travel around and speak, sometimes I wonder, wait, are you guys hearing what I'm saying? Because then the questions come afterwards, and it's like, oh, I was just talking to myself here for a while. No one was actually hearing what I was saying, because most questions and all seeking, it's looking for a person still. It's like saying, okay, I see that I'm not in control, but how can I maintain control?
Mm-hmm.
It's always a movement of trying to find the self. And that's the funny thing about looking for the self, or self-realization, is that what you find is that there isn't one. There isn't a self, and which is bad news for the one looking for a self. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like there's some people are familiar with Ramana Maharshi, who had his meditation was just one simple question: who am I? And keep asking yourself, who am I? Right? So you explore this question, who am I? And it's like, whatever your mind tells you is the answer, is not the answer.
Right.
Right? And you get in this space where there's even just a moment of no answer, then there's a realization, not from a mental thinking level, of who you really are.
Yeah, and you see, that's what a lot of these traditions and spiritual practices do. It's not that they're they're helping you find the answer. They're letting you exhaust yourself. They're letting you look so hard so that you can see directly that it's not there. Um, it's like to meditate and to find out who you are. What you find out is that you're not, and so you stop looking. And when you stop looking, there's a greater harmony with the life that's already happening. You
Yep.
see that there's just no separation between what you are and what's happening, but that doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean or say anything um, about who you think you are. And again, this is the wisdom of the insecurity. Every insecurity ultimately says, I'm not enough. And that's absolutely true. Who you think you are is not enough. It will never be enough. It will always let you down. It'll always fail. And so you exhaust yourself in trying to combat that and be enough, and you will collapse into the sweetest surrender. You will investigate all the ways out and see that there's no way out. But you will not surrender if you think there's a way out. No one surrenders when they think they have a way out. And so you have to do all of these spiritual games. You have to do all these little paths on life to try and find a way out, to see that there isn't one. And then when you see that there isn't one, then you'll actually be still. Then you'll actually be open to let life take over.
Yep. Totally agree. I love that. Stop looking and start being. Maybe is the way you could phrase it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then in another way, it's like this doesn't point to like the finality of one's life experience. It points to a present moment opportunity. It's like the wisdom and insight that I share isn't about your life. It's not about your future. You can't take what's being said into next week.
Yep.
It's totally contained into the present moment, so you can relax into now and see what's there. But a lot of times I see people, and again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this, but like writing down notes so that they remember it next week. And we've all had that experience where we watched a video or wrote something down and it was super inspiring. And then we feel like shit and watch the same video and be like, this is bullshit. What the fuck was I thinking? This doesn't mean anything. Because the power wasn't in what was being said. It wasn't in the video. It was in your current degree of openness to surrender, to admit that you don't know, and to let the moment be the moment. And so again, it's the eternity that we're looking for has nothing to do with the rest of your life. It's a present moment discovery, which allows you to go deeper, which in some way will carry over to the future, but not in the way that your mind thinks it will.
Yeah,
More like,
totally. And I would just add to that, you as you go deeper into this, you realize that there actually is no future. The future is a fiction. So
yeah,
if you're fully present in this moment, and this moment actually is all there is. This moment is always where it's happening. And
yeah,
that's a shift in awareness. It's life-changing. I think we're complete.
beautiful. I think
Anything
that's
else you
true.
want to say to anybody?
Something that they might be interested in. We're giving away a free spot at the 8-day retreat in Portugal in August. But you can only register for that drawing, I think, for another couple days. If you go to inlightconnect.com/Portugal, there'll be a pre-registration button. And if you sign up, you get added for a list. And then I think it's a week from today, we do a drawing and we give someone free access to a private room and a private bathroom. And you get to come for free. Well, you got to get yourself there. But you can learn more about that at inlightconnect.com/Portugal. Other than that,
Awesome.
only love.
Only love. When you have a
Only
chance, maybe
love,
you can
man.
put that link in the comments for people to click.
Oh, for sure. I'm going to type that right now.
Right now, in this moment.
It's happening.
Yeah.
.com/. Boom. Oh, well, it kind of worked, but didn't.
Great to see you, my friend. It's been too
You
long.
too,
We
man.
gotta connect more often, more frequently.
Yeah. Well, you said you were coming to Stockholm, yeah?
I am.
When is
Yeah, I don't
that?
think it's the same time as you though. Um, June 12th, I think,
Ah,
to like we're there for like 10. It's like June 12th to June 21st, maybe something like that.
okay. Yeah, I'll be there June 1st through the 3rd, and then first week of July. So we'll just miss each other
But maybe there's easy flights through Europe, right? So maybe we'll catch you
for sure.
in person in Portugal or somewhere.
For sure, man. For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you
All
so
right.
much for the
Love you,
invite.
brother. Yep. Thank you. Thank you all. Love you all. See you next time.